How many of our school-age kids have actually been vaccinated?
Morning, Lisa. I think it's, you can look at this as a very good, healthy number, given that the vaccination rollout among this age group's only been going for 3 weeks now. You could also look at it quite reasonably as not as high as you would like as students start going back to school. So let's start with the primary school kids. 39.1% of that age group, 5 to 11-year-olds, have had their first dose. Of course, none yet have had their second dose, or at least none have been reported yet. Maybe in the next couple of weeks we'll start to see second doses being done, given they're on an interval of between 4 and 8 weeks. We don't quite know exactly where parents are going to be booking their kids in on average, but so maybe soon we'll start to see some second doses. But 39.1% on the first doses, and there's a bit of a range across different states and territories. The ACT is the real outlier. Two-thirds of 5 to 11-year-olds in Canberra have had their first dose already. That is about 20 points higher than any other state or territory. So they are the real outlier here, the real overperformers. The lowest is Western Australia, where it's at 32.2%, so about a third of the kids in the West. That's where we're at with primary schools, as schools in many states do start to go back. In high schools, obviously 12 to 15-year-olds have had quite a lot longer. 84% have had a first dose, 76.5% have had 2 doses of a vaccine. And that is, the number I guess we're shooting for the primary school, the 5 to 11-year-olds as well. And it's really important for us to also note that number is not a lot lower than the rest of the population. The sort of population-wide average is only about 85% at the moment. So we haven't really seen a significantly lower vaccine uptake in the 12 to 15-year-olds than we're seeing in adults. So some good news there as well, and a good target for 5 to 11-year-olds to aim for.
Well, do you know how long it would take? Can you sort of assess when that vaccination rate might catch up to the teenagers?
Yeah, it's interesting, Lisa. I think last week we looked at the trajectory of, just the pace of vaccines from the day that each age group became eligible. And what's really interesting is the 5 to 11-year-olds are just matching the pace of 12 to 15-year-olds. This is since day zero, the day that 12 to 15-year-olds became eligible. That's the curve of vaccination coverage at 83.5% at the moment. The red line is 5 to 11-year-olds at 39.1, and you can see it's basically matching the same trajectory. So if we assume that will continue, well then by the end of about term 1 this year, you'd expect about 3/4 of 5 to 11-year-olds will have had their first dose. Of course, again, second doses will take longer. Second doses on up to an 8-week interval. I suspect we won't quite see it be quite the 8-week lag that is possible. But when at the end of term 1, 3/4 of people have their first dose, you're kind of looking at middle of term 2 for them to be fully dosed. So it's moving, again, it's moving quickly given it's only been happening for a few weeks, but we are still talking, we're in term 2 before we see a really kind of mass vaccination level reached in our primary schools.
Yeah, and a shout out to all the parents who are doing their darndest to try and get their children vaccinated quickly as we head into the school year. Hey, Casey, today's also the day that the interval for boosters shortens, and all adults can now get theirs 3 months after their second dose, although a few states did go early in expanding eligibility. So how many people are now eligible for a third shot?
Yep, so let's look at the vaccine coverage of boosters across the entire country. And as you say, some states went a little bit earlier in expanding that eligibility, and which may have given, a small boost to these numbers in those states. But, ranging from, again, 37.4% of the entire population in the ACT, that's including all age groups, including those that aren't eligible for a booster at this point, down to 25% in the Northern Territory. And the effect of shortening the interval today actually makes a really, really big difference in terms of the number of people who are eligible. I just calculated at the back of the envelope. Up to now, assuming a 4-month interval up to now, would have had about 3.5 million people eligible for a booster today. Every state moving to 3 months, so just sort of ignoring the fact that a few went last week, but every state moving to 3 months today bumps you up to 8.7 million people who are eligible for a booster at the moment. but haven't yet had it. You're talking, about 60, you're getting close to 2/3 of the population now. I think it's about 63, 64% of the population who have either had their third dose or are eligible for it at this point. So there is kind of, of course, not everyone will get it immediately. They've just been made eligible, but we are really now at the point where boosters are widely available to lots of people. The states that saw those very quick vaccination surges last year earlier than the other states, so the ACT, New South Wales, Victoria, they obviously have more people now eligible for boosters just because they had more people get second doses earlier. But the mass availability is there. We're seeing very healthy kind of dose numbers being done each day. The question, I guess, now is what is the uptake like? What is the demand for these boosters going forward?
Casey, if I was doing all those calculations on the back of an envelope, I'd need a bigger envelope. Lucky we've got you. Thank you.
I have very small writing. That's the trick.
Oh, I see. Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Lisa.